Hello, friends. We are podcasting on section 3.1 in the AP Stats book. Want to hit the big ideas here, so to reiterate things you have to know and things you have to do with the calculator, and most importantly, things that are likely to pop up on the AP exam. So we'll start by talking about explanatory and response variable. And remember, by starting in chapter 5 and talking about experimental design, we should already be pretty familiar with this. The explanatory variable explains the response. So fertilizer explains how much the grass grows. How much Rogaine you use explains how much your hair grows. Headache medicine explains how quickly your headache goes away. So, in any situation, you should be able to identify clearly an explanatory and response variable. Now, what we have in this chapter is bivariate data, two variables, pairs of numbers, an x and a y. And we're going to take that bivariate two variable data and we are going to make scatter plots. And first and foremost, we should be able to describe a scatter plot in terms of its form, strength, and direction. And for this section, we're just going to be able to identify any points that lie outside the general pattern. But in section 3.3, we're going to talk more about the difference between an outlier and an influential point. Most importantly, know what these words are and be able to use them correctly in your answers and understand them when they're written as part of the directions. So, on form, strength, and direction. The direction is either positive or negative, and that will be the same sign as the correlation R. The form is either linear or nonlinear, and the strength is more of a interpretation. Is strong means it's very close to a straight line pattern. Weak means it's hard to detect if there's any pattern at all. Okay, so let's look at a couple. So here's a problem from your book, and we're going to hit a couple ideas with this one. And we have data, but we also have categorical variables. And while I'm talking, you should be thinking about what exactly in here is a categorical variable, something you should remember as opposed to a quantitative. Okay, and we should also know how to illustrate the difference between two categorical variables in a scatter plot. So you've had time to think about it now. Pause if you haven't, if you want to think more. But the categorical variable is the gender. So we're going to make two scatter plots, one for all the male data and one for all the female data. And we'll make one with the little circles on the calculator, and we'll make the other with little plus signs, and we'll be able to compare the two. I think it may be easier for us to work with the data in this form. So I'm going to put this here and pop open the calculator. Here is my calculator. Now, if you cannot remember how to get all of your lists back, if we did the list setup, just a reminder, it is stat 5 enter. And it's a good idea before you start doing data work to go and make sure you have no equations in that could show up in the middle of your plot, and also to double check and make sure all of your stat plots are off at the beginning. So second stat plot, number 4, enter, will turn off all your plots. So now I'm starting with no equations in y, nothing to mess me up. Second stat plot, everything is off. Okay, and to reset my lists, if I just hit stat 5 enter, the setup editor, that puts all my lists back in order the way I want them. There they are. You can see in this list I got males and females. What I'm going to do is highlight the males in the podcast, make it a little easier to punch the data in for you. At this point, everyone should be able to hit stat enter and plug the data in to the calculator. So that's what I'm going to do right now. All right, with all my data now in L2, L3 for the males, and L4, L5 for females, I can set up a couple stat plots. And here I go. Turn plot 1 on. It's already on scatter plot. Hit enter if it's not. And my lists are going to be L2 and L3 for the males, which I'll do with the circle. And then when I go up to plot 2, turn it on. It's already a scatter plot. Hit enter if it's not. And now we're going to be L4, L5. Make sure you hit enter on the plus sign. Quit out, and then zoom 9 it. And there you have a scattering of points. So that's part A of the question. You'll be able to identify the explanatory variable, and in the next podcast, we'll finish up B and C.